Welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. 5:30 on the dot here in Phoenix, Arizona, 8:30 out on the East Coast. I'm Daytona Everett. We appreciate all of you joining us here on this Friday evening, and we're going to ramp it up with this story right now. Midterm primary season is ramping up, and some candidates are bringing out big political names for endorsements, especially out here in Arizona. Live Now's Andrew Kraft spoke with one of them here. Here's that conversation.
And joining us here on Live Now from Fox is former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. Mr. Christie, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
We understand you're in the state stumping for some candidates, especially one, Karen Taylor Robeson. She's vying to be the next governor. Why her specifically? Where's the momentum in this race? The primary is next Tuesday.
Well, I've known Karen for a decade, known her well personally. And I'm here because I believe in her judgment, her character, her intellectual curiosity, and her ability to make tough decisions. And those are the things you need as a governor. I know that from having done it for 8 years in a tough state like New Jersey. And that's why I'm here to help Karen. And so I think the world of her. And I hope that people understand, especially after going through the COVID crisis, how important who their governor is and how that governor makes decisions.
Okay, so a recent poll out today by Arizona Public Opinion Polls has her down 18 points to her opponent, Kari Lake. Let's talk about Kari Lake just briefly here. She has made 2020 election denialism a very core tenet of her campaign. Do you see that becoming a litmus test for people who want to run for office, Republican candidates, Republicans themselves? Is that becoming the litmus test to be a Republican?
Well, first of all, let me start with saying I absolutely do not believe that poll is anywhere close to true. So let's start with that. Secondly, you say it's been a core tenet of her campaign. It's been the only tenet of her campaign. And look, everyone has a right to run for office. Every American has the right to do it. But you should have some base qualification to be able to serve. She does not. I mean, this is a woman who has sat around. She donated to Barack Obama. She denied Donald Trump was the president in 2017, said, not my president. Now, all of a sudden, she's Donald Trump's best friend. Let me tell you, as somebody who's been friends with Donald Trump for 20 years, who was the first national political figure to endorse him, chaired his transition, chaired his opioid and drug abuse commission, played Hillary Clinton in debate prep in 2016, played Joe Biden in debate prep in 2020. I don't know Kari Lake. This idea that somehow Kari Lake is some close confidant of Donald Trump's is baloney.
Okay.
So she's not telling the truth about that. And all she's running on is to try to play on people's fears from the 2020 election. That's not a basis for leadership in a state.
Okay, but let's talk about some of these other GOP candidates in gubernatorial races across the country. You have Dan Cox in Maryland, Darren Bailey, Illinois, Doug Mastriano in Pennsylvania. They all believe Joe Biden is illegitimate, that the election was stolen. How bad is this for the party itself when those are the candidates they're putting up to run statewide? Well,
the people in those states get to nominate who they want, but Brian Kemp in Georgia is not a truth denier. He won his primary. You saw Kay Ivey in Alabama. She won her primary, not a denier. Greg Abbott in Texas won his primary, not a denier. So we could go through the whole list of people. Paul LePage in Maine, not a denier. We've got a whole bunch of folks that are running in different ways, and the people of the party in that state get to decide. But I will tell them this, if they wind up nominating someone who loses in November, they're going to be feeling the pain of having a Democrat as their governor for the next 4 years, and that's going to be pain they wish they didn't have to endure.
Yeah. Let's talk about Democrats as well. There was recent reports, and what do you make of some of them, that major Democratic super PACs are funding, they're putting millions of dollars in ads to prop up some of these far-right candidates like Mastriano, like Dan Cox. Do you think that's going to bite them eventually? Are they going to shoot themselves in the foot because of that? Is it going to backfire?
Well, first of all, it's amongst the most cynical things you could ever see happen. These are people who are out there pretending to be protectors of democracy. Is this the way you protect democracy? By going in and trying to support a candidate that you admit yourself you think is nuts? Is that the way we do things? So I think Democrats are going to be seen by voters as cynical and only hungry for power. And I don't think in the long run, Andrew, that helps them.
Okay, let's talk about November. Do Republicans take back the House and the Senate? What's your view on that?
Yes, we do. I think we take back the House by a wide margin. we take back the Senate by a narrow margin.
Okay. What do you make of some of these Senate candidates, especially here in Arizona? Blake Masters up against Mark Brnovich. Have you thrown your backing behind any of those Senate candidates here in Arizona?
I have not. In fact, I haven't gotten involved in any of the Senate races across the country. My focus is really on the governor's races. That's what I focused on. I've gotten involved in a number of them. I endorsed Brian Kemp in his primary in Georgia. I thought that was an important race to be involved in, and Brian won by 51 points. So I've been involved with the governors. I have not been involved in any of the Senate primaries.
Okay, let's talk about Democrats even further and 2024. What would your one piece of advice be to President Joe Biden currently as it stands right now? And do you think he's too old to run again for re-election in 24?
Well, my one bit of advice to him would be to tell the people the truth. The people aren't stupid. So to tell people that we're not in a recession, when we've had 2 straight quarters of negative economic activity, is treating people like they're stupid. And he and his White House have to knock that off, because it's just going to hurt them even more. And it's going to hurt the country even more. And I don't think the president should run for re-election again. I think 79 years old is too old to be president of the United States. Certainly into your 80s is much too old to be president of the United States. Put aside the fact that I disagree with him fundamentally on almost every policy position, he's not fit for the office.
Okay, let's talk about the GOP side, 2024. President Trump, in all indications, is going to run. He hasn't made an announcement just yet. He would be up there as well. Right now, I think he's 76, so he would be almost 80 in 2024. Does he run, and is he going to make room for, Pompeo, DeSantis, more of these younger generation types to break through? Is there even room for them to break through, or if he runs, is that it?
Well, first of all, if I don't know if he's going to run.
Okay.
And I think it's a 50-50 shot whether he runs or not. I don't think it's nearly a certain thing. Secondly, he's not going to make room for anybody if he runs. He's going to want to dominate the field. He is not interested in making the party better and stronger for tomorrow. He's interested in returning himself to power in order to, execute on a vendetta that he has. Now, can anyone else beat him? Absolutely. And I don't think that he has a lock on the Republican presidential nomination in 2024. Does he have a right to run? Of course he does. Like I said before, everybody has a right to run. But he will not have to stand on what he did as president, and I think that'll be an interesting conversation.
Are you foreseeing, though, some type of primary battle come 2023, 2024 with, like DeSantis, Pompeo, Nikki Haley?
Oh, look, I think that there will be, whether the former president runs or not, I think there will be a substantial Republican field seeking our nomination in 24.
Are you going to be one of those candidates?
Could be. We'll see.
Okay. Let's talk about January 6th as well. Have you been watching the hearings this summer at all?
I've watched most of them, not all of them.
Okay. You're a former U.S. attorney. Do you think Donald Trump will be indicted for his role on January 6th?
I think that's very, very hard to do. I would tell you, I think it would be very, very difficult for the country to endure. And I don't know all the evidence. And so I'm not going to give an opinion on whether he should or he shouldn't. But I will tell you this. If you're going to indict a former president of the United States, you better have solid proof beyond a reasonable doubt to prove his guilt. Because otherwise, we're going to look like a banana republic here. He was removed from office. The voters removed him. They made a judgment. I don't know that we need to go back and prosecute him again. Now, let's see all the evidence. When all the evidence comes in, I'll be happy to give you my opinion. But I think as a general matter, that type of prosecution would be very difficult to win.
Okay. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on Attorney General Merrick Garland right now.
That's why you get paid the big bucks, Andrew. Okay. You want to be Attorney General of the United States, you got to make the tough calls.
Okay.
And he's got to make the tough calls. But he should make it on the merits, but understanding that he has a responsibility to the country to make sure that they have faith and confidence in our justice system, and not make it look like it's political.
Okay. Last question. This is topical right now, especially in your state, in Bedminster, New Jersey. There's a tournament going on, the Live Golf League. It's Saudi Arabia backed. It's being held at Donald Trump's golf course. A lot of 9/11 families didn't want this to happen. They don't want future tournaments to happen, especially on former President Trump's courses. He said something interesting yesterday to ESPN. He said, nobody's gotten to the bottom of 9/11, unfortunately, and they should have. That was, responding to some of the criticism that he's gotten for hosting this. What do you make of the league itself, or what do you make of those comments?
Well, what does that have to do with whether he's hosting it or not? That no one's gotten to the bottom of 9/11. I mean, see, this is typical Donald Trump. Like, he doesn't want to answer the question about the tournament, so he sets up now another conspiracy theory. We know what happened on 9/11. We had a 9/11 commission that investigated it. We know who perpetrated these crimes. We have people in custody who helped to plan them at Guantanamo, who are going through the military tribunals. So to say that just to avoid answering a question that he's uncomfortable answering is beneath the job that he held.
Okay. Last question. I know I said that before, but let's talk about your electoral prospects. I know you kind of hinted at something maybe earlier, but do you want to get back into elected office? Do you want to get out campaigning again? Do you miss it?
Well, I think once you've been in public life, if you feel like you still have something to contribute, of course you miss it. But I'm not going to run for president unless I feel like there's a pathway to winning. I don't need to do it for the experience. I've already had the experience, and it was a wonderful experience.
Have you spoken to the former president recently?
No. The former president and I haven't spoken since December of 2020, when I said on another network that there's no evidence that the election was stolen. He got very angry with me, and we haven't spoken since. It's sad because we've been friends for 20 years, but on the other hand, if lying about the election for him is the requirement to be his friend, that's not a requirement I'm willing to pay.
Okay, we will leave it at that. Governor Chris Christie, we thank you for your time, and we'll talk again.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.